Hello everyone and welcome to Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet where we got big heads and little bodies. I'm Will, and joining me this week, Brandon.
They call me the Pokemon Enjoyer.
Saf.
They call me the Pokemon Critiquer.
Ills.
They don't call me anything if they know what's good for them.
And Mina.
I wish someone would call me something.
I ain't calling you for dinner, that much is a fact.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Don't call me late for dinner.
True. Welcome to the podcast this week. We have a Pokemon to talk about, as you could probably tell from the intro. Among other things, there was a state of play, there was a game that got canceled even though it's already out. We'll talk about all those things. Let's lead off with the Pocket Monsters. They had a Pokemon Presents, which generally means they're going to be covering things that aren't Switch games. Didn't really happen this go around.
No,
right?
It's all Switch games this time.
Let's end with, I think it was expected there would be a remake of Diamond and Pearl. We can get to that remake that did get announced, but I think the thing that caught everyone off guard, hey, Pokemon Legends, Arceus, what is this?
Actually, it's Arceus.
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 Right.
I apologize.
No, I hate that pronunciation. It's Arceus. Well, I don't care
100%.
what he says.
Yes.
Arceus.
I've always said Arceus.
Yeah.
This is a huge announcement, though. Like, I mean, Game Freak's making this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is clearly taking inspiration from Breath of the Wild,
Yeah.
right? Which is the big thing, I think. And it's set in the Sinnoh region, and different set of starters though. You got
It's in the past.
Yeah, it's in the past.
Yeah.
Which is
Feudal Sinnoh.
and the whole gameplay is just like it's all about, I guess, traversing this open world, right? They fit Pokemon into this like open world kind of deal, and
Well,
I mean,
apparently
it's
you're making the first Pokédex ever, so.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That's the society is not built up. Pokeballs are made of wood and they give off steam when you catch them, right? We did get this game leaked about a couple hours before the presentation. Without spoiling too much, there is such clear Breath of the Wild inspiration. It's almost embarrassing in this game. In the aesthetic, right? I mean, both of them sort of go for like a brushstroke kind of vibe, right? This one much more obviously because it's based off ancient Japan.
Mm.
And then
even like the way the trailer opened, like it just immediately I got these like Breath of the Wild vibes, from the piano playing to like the kind of like the storybook opening. It reminded me of that one Breath of the Wild trailer we got that was kind of telling about like the history of Hyrule or whatever, right?
Yeah, they climbed together, yeah.
This is all feudal Japan stuff too, but it's like to me it was like, this is like they were sending a message with this trailer, right? Like this
Sure.
is what we're going for.
Yeah.
And it's something that like I think we've all joked about. Some people have legitimately wanted this game, right? And I would say I'm in that camp as well, but it always seemed unrealistic, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's same. Like, I was also with you on like, that would be cool, but I just don't expect it, But here we are.
Here we are, yeah. And I think this is especially surprising because it's like, okay, we all expected Diamond and Pearl remix, right?
Yeah.
But for them to announce their next game, and it's also a couple months, just a couple months after, it's early 2022, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's not that further off than Diamond and Pearl remix, right? It's another game set in Sinnoh, right? And this is not like Sword and Shield, right? This is very different from Sword and Shield. They call it the next evolution of Pokemon. I don't expect everything that shows up in this game to keep with future games, right? But I would say I would be surprised if this isn't a testing ground for a lot of new ideas for the next proper generation of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right?
Some of those things might be that we got from this trailer, right? They describe this as an action RPG, which they don't for normal Pokemon.
Yeah.
How those actions come into play, we'll see. But like, for example, you have a roll, right? And you and you can crouch and sneak up on Pokemon. That's the thing they say on the website, is to catch a Pokemon, you're going to have to observe it and sort of learn how to get near it to catch it first, right? Which I think isn't.
when will that tactical role be used? That's what I'm frightened of. Like, are you just gonna get attacked by Pokemon randomly or some shit?
I think maybe. I don't know.
You know, you want to sneak up on the Pokemon so you can actually throw the ball at them, you know?
Yeah. And now you sort of choose to engage a little bit, right? Insofar as like now you sort of physically you're aiming and throwing the Pokeball, right? You're not just pressing the button to throw it. And the same thing goes when you throw a Pokemon out to fight, right? You throw a Pokemon out near a wild Pokemon, it'll go up to it and it'll start fighting, and that's where you enter the more traditional turn-based combat.
There's speculation that it's like maybe an ATB style combat system, like similar to like the older Final Fantasy games. We don't know for sure. We don't know but the UI we saw was just traditional turn-based battles, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the confusion right now is coming from because of these murmurs that we're hearing, but also like they call it an action RPG, right? Now, does that just mean because we have more direct control of the trainer now, right? Because I think this is the most like, I guess like physicality you've had with the trainer, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Usually, the trainer's purpose in a Pokemon game is to walk around the overworld, right, and select commands. That's it, right? Yeah. But now you're doing all these different stuff. You're actually interacting with the environment as the trainer, right? And I think that alone could quantify it as a action RPG. Yeah. But who knows?
So this was like you said, it's early 2022. Which I think is interesting for a multitude of reasons. But the game, we can say, the performance-wise, it was not the strongest at this point, right? Optimization has to happen later in game development in general. That's why vertical slices have to happen for demos. So, I wouldn't start fretting about it now, right, or later. Just see.
I mean, if it looks like this in 2022, then sure. But like right now, performance is not something I'm looking at because the game is far off, right? Yeah, it is over a year off. We don't know. I'm not going to think about performance right now.
I mean, and it seems to be kind of like just exclusive to the movement of Pokemon, really. Like if you look at the trailer, so like I'm sure it'll be easy for them to like kind of tighten that shit up.
Sure.
Plus, we'll have a Switch Pro by then.
The other thing, I guess, of note, this is the first time they have just multiple starters from multiple generations. Cyndaquil, Oshawott, and Rowlet are the fire, water, grass in that order.
Weird bunch.
Yeah.
I would not call them like. I mean, Rowlet, I guess, is pretty popular, but I would not consider this trio like a fan favorite trio necessarily. No. I like it though. I like that it's not just the Sinnoh starters, even though we are in Sinnoh, and it makes sense, right? Like you see wild Piplups and Chimchars and Turtwigs in the game, so it's like, the Sinnoh starters a couple hundred years back were roaming the lands. They become rare as time goes on, right? And that's why they become starters, only exclusive to the labs, right? But there was a time where they roamed the lands,
There was a time,
and we see that in this game.
Yeah. And I mean, like, samurai makes sense because it's like a samurai, right? It's like ancient Japan. Yeah. But like, and Rowlet's like an archer. You're like, okay, sure. And then it's like Cyndaquil's just a guy.
Just a
guy. Maybe it's fulfilling the role of like brawler, like brawler, archer, and
sure.
And like
swordsman.
The thing I find fascinating, or the thing that really, really intrigues me the most, is that how much of this game is going to be dedicated to like just open, free exploration like Breath of the Wild versus just focusing more on story or like just finding the lore of Arceus or what the fuck. Like that's what interests me in terms of this, because like there's a lot of great open world games that I've enjoyed just exploring the open world because of the amount of freedom that you have, like Xenoblade X and Breath of the Wild. But the story is like second place to that. So I wonder if they're going to follow in the same manner of just focusing more on the open world, which would be fantastic, which is kind of what I want from a Pokemon game. Sure. Versus like the fucking story itself, and not just.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think it's clearly going to focus on like the exploration aspect, right? I think the reason this game is being made is to pursue this idea, right? Of this kind of freeform like go wherever you want, explore this vast world, right, kind of deal. I think that's what this is for. And I, maybe it's possible that like the feudal setting is a little bit of a cop out for that reason, right?
Yeah, just so that there's less technology and shit. Yeah.
And not even that, like, so one of the tweets that Nintendo put out was like, this was a time before trainers, Pokemon trainers and Pokemon leagues, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder, are we not going to see like trainers in the wild? Like, and a friend of mine, she was specifically worried about this, hardcore Pokemon fan, where she was like, like, are there going to be trainers in the region? Like, or is this just about wild Pokemon? Right?
Yeah, because they're really, even in the marketing, they really emphasize the, like, this is the first ever Pokedex, right? Which we mentioned earlier. And the Pokedex is obviously very catching focused,
Yeah, and so, like, I wonder, like, is that the primary focus of this game? Is just, like, exploring and filling out the Pokedex versus, battling, which I think,
yeah. I think so, because there's not a league, right? Obviously,
there's no league, and they said, and in the tweet, and I don't know if this is just a like we're not ready to reveal, but I do think it's weird that they tweet out like this is a time before Pokemon trainers, right? Like, I think that's just a.
I mean, they could very easily work under the idea of like it's less formalized, like you're like part of the first generation of trainers, right, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure like we'll see like I'm sure we'll have some sort of rival, right? I'm sure we'll have some sort of final boss fight. Though that might just
there'll be some bad guys who are. Like, oh, you can use Pokemon for fighting and using them for bad things.
Well, it's interesting. If you look on their sleeves, the sleeves on the trainers look a lot like the Team Galactic logos, right? Which, clearly, they're setting this in Sinnoh. That wouldn't be an accident.
Sorry for interrupting. I do find that, like, fascinating. Like, I do like that as a concept. Like, there's not going to be trainers there because it's going to allow them to wrestle with different ideas of like how humans and Pokemon interacted before trainers were a thing. Like maybe they were more harmonious with each other. Maybe they actually kind of like hung around with each other, etc. Like those types of ideas just fascinates me a lot. Like you might see someone with like a herd of like just riding a Ponyta. I don't know. Yeah, Ponyta was in Sinnoh. Yeah.
Ponyta wasn't Sinnoh. It was the only fire type. So
only fire type, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you'll see Pokemon get married to people. Who knows?
Where's my Pokemon waifu?
No, yeah. So I mean, I think plug your ears, I guess. There's enough hilly environments in this game that it would be insane if there was not like climbing of like things, right? And I wonder if because HMs are going away, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to that with the other game that got announced. But I wonder if sort of they do almost keep HMs around in this through like, have a Pokemon that can fly just with you, and that's like valuable to getting around. Clearly, this like game that's about exploration. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, get a Pokemon you can ride, right? Because that obviously was in Gen 7, but it was that game was all corridors mostly, right? So it wasn't quite the same as like getting on the back of a Ponyta, I guess.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee kind of explored with this idea already, right? Like there was a lot of Pokemon you could ride and they would make you faster, or you could go on like you could ride a Lapras or Gyarados in the water, right? And so they've definitely explored with these ideas before. And this kind of does feel like, to me, I got a lot of Let's Go vibes, right? I feel like this, like, even like the focus on catching, right? Like, I just feel like, I think it's interesting that Game Freak is not just going with exactly what you would expect from them, right? Which is, here's the new generation, here's a set of remakes in that same engine. Right? Here's the third version, and then we move on to the next generation, right? Instead, they're taking these older regions that they've had. They did it with Kanto, with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. They're doing it with Sinnoh with this game, right? Is let's explore this region to just try different ideas that may not necessarily work in the mainline games, right?
Yeah.
But it lets them experiment and lets them go wild and to see a kind of Pokemon game that we just haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I think that's just a lot of fun.
It's, I mean, and worth no, excuse me. We confirmed that there's single player. There seemingly is no multiplayer component to this game, right? According to the website. Which, I mean, that's a big thing. Pokemon, I mean, they had that video opening the thing. It was the first thing they showed you doing on the Game Boy. You were trading with a link cable, right? So for them to give that up is like, that's something, you know?
Yeah, because from the start, from Pokemon, the main like idea behind it was to be able to trade with your friends, right?
Yeah.
That was literally like the core concept of where they built the whole series upon. So for them to like take a step back and to make a very single player focused experience from Game Freak specifically, you know, is very interesting.
And I think that just points to also that, I mean, I think that's more in the idea of like, hey, this is not necessarily what Gen 9 is gonna look like, right?
Yeah.
Like, and mainline Pokemon still has a place, right? Like Sword and Shield now is probably gonna have even longer life to it, right?
No, absolutely. They're gonna have to keep updating it because I mentioned it in chat earlier. It's gonna Sword and Shield most likely now is gonna be like at Worlds for way longer than a gen does, because usually the remakes like take it over.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to happen with Diamond and Pearl remakes.
I mean, we can kind of segue, I guess, into Diamond and Pearl remakes.
Yeah. Because I guess we can just talk about it. Yeah. So Pokemon, first before that, there was Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl got announced for late 2021. This is interesting because it's ILCA are the developers for it, right? So not Game Freak, though. Junichi Masuda, who sort of has helped guide the franchise, is helping co-direct this game. This is loyal as hell. this is perhaps slavishly loyal to the original, and that they thought, how do we make this game in 3D? And that is they didn't go above it, they didn't go below it. They sort of, I think, just went for that, you know.
I mean, this is a 1-to-1 remake of Diamond and Pearl. Like, it's crazy. like from an art style perspective, like the region looks just exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
And when I saw this first, I was a little disappointed. My disappointment wore off after, because fucking Pokemon Legends came right after that, right? And I was like, oh my god. But even aside from Pokemon Legends, like, I looked at this game a little bit more. Like, it is not like a Sword and Shield style remake, right? And that's a little disappointing, right? And it doesn't even look like Oras or Let's Go, right? That kind of chibi style. It's even more chibi than that, right? Like the character models are the size of the sprites in Gen 4, you know?
Yeah.
Their proportions they're so tiny. They have giant heads and nothing else, you know?
Yeah.
And the geography is just exactly the same. Exactly the same.
It looks like it's on like grid. It looks like it's like, I think you just said 1-to-1 remake. Like, it's not what anybody expected.
No. It is. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, I genuinely, this might be a hot take, but I genuinely have no interest in this game. Like, just because of how 1-to-1 it is.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, like I do think, like, to be fair to like previous remakes, like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, those are a lot more like remixes. You know, they're doing more new with it, right? And this is just Diamond and Pearl, and that's a fun nostalgia romp for some, right? But you know, I could see someone skipping it because it's like, I've already played Diamond and Pearl. If I want to play Diamond and Pearl, I could just play Diamond and Pearl, right? It doesn't really grab you as like, oh, I have to, oh my god, I really want to see what they do with this, because you know what they're gonna do with it. It's the same fucking game.
Well,
yeah, because there was something novel for me, at least, going through each remakes, and like just seeing these areas that you've like, you know, gotten used to, but with like in a new light, right?
Yeah,
like here's Pallet Town, but here's what it looks like in the new engine, and you're like, oh wow, like, you know, like it's really interesting to see the whole region that you're used to in a new paint job, but like this is like just how you remember it. Like,
this one's far more of a literal paint job, right? Like, it is,
it is exactly like how my brain remembers it. Look, I know it's not exactly the same because it's 3D, right? Sure. But it really is just how my brain remembers it looking. And I think the other weird thing about it is that I feel like Diamond and Pearl is where Pokemon is truly like, this is a modern Pokemon game, right? Yeah, it's like slow and notoriously slow, right? But like, I mean, the physical special split is here, right? And like, it feels like a modern Pokemon game enough that it's like, I was hoping for something new to really like sell me on it, and I think it's just weird that this is just 1-to-1.
It's almost like we mentioned Skyward Sword last week. Where we're like, Skyward Sword looks better, but this is exactly how I remember it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because this game's also 60 FPS, right? It's the first 60 FPS Pokemon game in who knows how fucking long. But I do want to have a conversation about the state of remakes in Pokemon, though, because I feel like this was an eventuality. It was going to have to happen eventually. Insofar as like you said, right? It was already clearly getting a lot to do remakes and new series and then a new gen after, right? We saw that in 3DS, right? They took the year break, right? Things like that. And also, like, say what you will, Sword and Shield are huge shifts in terms of the way, like, you're not moving,
isometric.
It's full 3D movement, right?
Yeah.
So there would be a lot of redesigning that happens with Sinnoh to make it work in that environment, right? And I think that, like, obviously they could have done that. That would be, I think, have been interesting too. But for me, if you sort of also that this is not made by Game Freak, right? This is someone else. This is the people that work on Pokemon Home, right? That this exists, right? And at the same time, you get to have Legends, right? So you get to have this sort of love letter to Gen 4, a way to play it more easily on a modern system, right? And then this new thing that's still using Sinnoh, right? Like, outside of maybe Johto, there's no region that Legends would work in, right? Like, the story of that game is so steeped in ancient myths and these just big presences of these legendaries, right? That I think it's a very good 1-2, right? If it was just Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it would be disappointing. But I think that, like, it makes sense for the direction of the franchise.
Yeah.
It is. It is fascinating, like the diametrics between those two game announcements, where it's like one is extremely like true to
faithful
old style, just traditional, and the other one is just extremely experimental. That's just super fascinating to me. And I do hope like they feed into each other in some way. Like, you see certain landmarks, like the Dialga statue in the trailer. Sure. You see that being built in like Legends or some shit like that. Like, I would like to see those types of elements like cross over and see like how that develops. And I hope they do something with those two games that kind of forces some sort of interactivity, even if it is just kind of just lore wise. Like, that would be really cool.
Yeah, take advantage of the fact that this is the same space, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
My one thing that I am hesitant about more than anything with Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and this is going to be an of course, but it needs to use the stuff that Platinum added. Like, I feel like if you are doing such a fucking faithful remake, right, and you're not really adding anything new, right, I need the better version of this game, right? Like, I don't...
Sure. Like the best version.
Yeah, I don't want this to be like, oh, it's better than Diamond Pearl, but not as good as Platinum, right? I need it to just, like, this is a complete, like, the definitive version of these games, because if it's not, I'm not really that interested. Yeah. You know?
There's some early like things of like there's NPCs that are only in Platinum that are found in the trailer, right? So there's like things that indicate that it'll have Platinum stuff, right? Now, how much of is all of it? We don't know, right? So
I'm sure there would be, because like I know.
Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire did not.
Yeah, but Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire added a lot, though.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. They have no. I'm excusing them for that game, but there is no goddamn excuse here. Like, none.
I might be crazy. I might be actually crazy, but like, I remember like trying to complete the Pokédex. I mean, I am. But I remember completing the Pokédex for like black and white, Diamond and Pearl, which is why I got like over 1,000 hours of fucking time in there. And I think there are Pokemon that were hard to obtain in like the regular decks. That you would have needed like some sort of like crossover, like either you need to have like the older game to get access to that Pokemon, or you would have needed to trade like fucking Fire Red or Leaf Green that came out. I can't remember what the fuck names are. Yeah, or stuff like that. So I think they would have to remix it a little bit in terms of like how you get Pokemons at the very least.
Yeah, the Reggies I feel like have to be in this game if they're gonna have Regigigas, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they're gonna maybe do some sort of, because the only way you could get them before was to transfer them from Gen 3 and then catch Regigigas. But
they do show of someone using a Porygon Z before you would have gotten it in base platinum because it was a post game item, right? The dubious disc, I think it was. So like you said, I think that they're changing this up, right? Which would be good.
That's good.
So do you think, by the way, this is two very close, right? If it's late 2021, November, let's just assume, because that's where Pokemon always comes out.
Yeah.
And then early 2021, right? In Japanese specifically, they give a thing that refers to the first 3 months of the year, right? Do you think it sticks to that, or do you think that this will quietly get moved?
I mean, I can see it being March, but I could also see it being getting delayed. You know, like this is a very ambitious game. It is, right?
Yeah.
And your best case scenario is been in development since, let's say, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee wrapped up, right?
Sure.
At an absolute best case scenario. And so that's about a little over 3 years, right? And in the meantime, we had a fucking pandemic, right? Still are in a pandemic, right? And that's required a lot of restrictions and a lot of changes to the workflow. And so, if this game ends up getting delayed a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised. I still would expect it out before, like, say, E3 time, maybe. E3, like June 2022, like, at the latest, I would say, right? And the other thing is, like, Pokemon games always make them their mark, right? Like they're on time. But this time, they don't have the pressure of making a holiday release, right?
They don't have the pressure of, well, at least assumedly, they don't have the pressure of a tie-along anime and a card game and a whole bunch of stuff that basically says, yeah, well, you have to release this fucking game,
Yeah. Like, Pokemon is such a, like the machine is so big, right? Like, and all these parts have to just come together and align. And Pokemon Legends doesn't really have any of that to worry about.
Yeah.
Assumedly.
I assume, though, they're going to do cards, but cards can...
They're easy.
I assume.
Easier.
Yeah, that's easier. Yeah. That's easier than an anime that already is going to be in syndication. And shit.
Yeah, and like, you don't have to worry as much about merch, right? Like, because, like, there's new, like, so it's not like the pressures that a new generation has. And so I think with all the things, I think it does give Game Freak breathing room that, okay, if it doesn't make March, it can take 1, 2, 3 months off, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One quick thing I want to mention about Game Freak recently, I would say over the past, not super recently, but ever since, like, let's say Black and White 2, I've loved watching people who are obsessed with patterns. I love to watch their brains melt. Because Game Freak just doesn't give a shit about patterns anymore, right? Ever since Black and White 2, they were like, fuck your patterns, and I've loved it because people still try.
Yeah, they still try.
No,
they still try to pattern it out, and it's like, no, like, literally every generation since like you said, Black and White.
And even these remakes have, like, thrown a wrench in the pattern. Like, it's not just Sword and Shield engine with the remakes.
Yeah.
Like, they do whatever they want now, and... I love that.
It's great.
It's funny.
It really is great. Like, they don't adhere to any sort of, like, okay, new generation, then we're gonna do remakes, then we're gonna do third version. Like, no, none of that shit. Like, it's all, they do whatever suits them at the time, and that's fun.
Because
it's more exciting.
Yeah. I think the other thing, speaking of, I don't know if pattern breaking is the right word, right? But there was one more game in this presentation. New Pokemon Snap got shown off, right? Sort of just a lady talking us through. It's a Pokemon Snap video game. You're gonna be shocked to learn. You can throw apples. You can play some music on a flute, perhaps, and you can throw Illuma balls, which help you a real glow up, quite literally.
Yeah. No more pester balls. You can't smash balls into Pokemon face anymore.
Sad. This game is funny. I don't want to talk about it too much, but like, I think I was wondering, like, a month ago, why did they reveal the release date now when Pokemon Day is coming up, and I know they're going to do a presentation for Pokemon Day, right? I think that was a smart call now, though, because it got Pokemon Snap got its time to shine last month, right?
Yep.
But there was just no way when you're in the same presentation as Diamond and Pearl remakes and Pokemon Legends, right, that no one was going to talk about Pokemon Snap today, right? Just no one, and so I think it was smart to get that ahead before today.
Mm-hmm. And also just I don't want to say the cursed words, but just seeing a little Pokemon interact, it looked very charming trailer.
Yeah.
The hell is cursed about saying that?
Because then you talk about the animations, and that's where you get into trouble.
Oh, okay.
Pokemon animations are a testy subject.
Yeah.
So we had a state of play, right?
Did we?
We did.
Yeah,
So this was, they said, there would be 10 games, some new announcements, and some follow-ups on games from what we saw last year. Mostly an emphasis on follow-up from games that we saw last year.
It was all the same shit. It just was, right? I think, there was one actual new game called Sifu. It was an indie game, and it looked cool, but, I don't know what to say about it, right?
Yeah.
It's not PlayStation exclusive. Only Returnal's PlayStation exclusive. That was.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really? I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
wait, out of all those games, only Returnal was?
Or you think it was next gen exclusive, like PS5 only? They're all on PS4 as well.
Yuffie.
But I mean, we can be honest. It's just not worth talking about the first 9/10 of this presentation. It was just bleh. There was just okay. I saw more Returnal. I saw.
No, those games looked bad.
Also,
right?
I wish they didn't show what they showed about Returnal. I didn't want to see it. I'm gonna play this game, but I didn't want to see about the past becoming like.
Oh sure, yeah.
Returnal's actually had 4 trailers this month. They've been showing a lot of it, and a lot of it's story stuff that I thought do you need to, right?
Yeah, because it's a game I want to play, but I don't. I just want to go into it not knowing anything.
Yeah.
Not knowing as much about the story as possible.
Yeah. By the way, Kina looks good. Got delayed into August.
It's August.
Surprised they didn't mention on Epic Game Store. It's only $40, so I'm surprised they didn't mention a price point for that.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, that came out after. It's okay, $40. You can be it. It's cool. It's not a physical release, so I guess that makes sense. But
yeah. But then the last thing it was they gave it the most time, and it was part of the whole rash of stuff. Really, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is coming to the PS5 on June 10th, 2021. What is going to come with this? There's some quality of life improvements. They go over all that in the trailer. The graphics are better, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. Emphasis on kind of.
But then the big new thing they're showing off is what was Yuffie up to, and that's the part you're going to be playing. A free upgrade for all those visuals if you bought the PS4 version, which is important because we'll get to that. Bought is the keyword there.
Yeah.
If you want to get Yuffie, it's $20.
It's $20?
$20 for episode
What?
Yuffie.
I was thinking 10, but what the fuck?
$20.
I'm big
and
episode Yuffie.
only on the PS5.
Yeah, no PS4 version. And this is something worth being aware of. Just get out of the way. The PS Plus game for March is Final Fantasy VII Remake. But if you get FF7 Remake, you are not eligible to get the Intergrade and the Yuffie stuff.
Huh?
You have to buy it.
At
That's
that
a dick
point,
move.
I think it's a stupid business move, right? It's like okay, so you're giving everyone who has PS Plus Final Fantasy VII Remake for free, right? Sure, great, smart, and then you have them upgrade, and then you they can pay $20 for Yuffie, right? No, it doesn't work like that.
Not at all.
And because this is a 50-hour single-player RPG that's not very replayable, right? I imagine a lot of people who download the PS Plus version are going to play through it. They don't care enough to pay $70 to get the PS5 version.
No.
The amount of people who are going to be convinced by this, I would say you're probably turning off more people from getting the PS5 version than you are getting new customers, right? Because they're going to get their fill.
Also,
they're just
why bother if
fill.
it's free?
People are saying that they were worried about trying to even download the PS Plus version because if they have the disc version, it might lock them out.
Not kind of.
Yeah, because the way that PS Plus like purchases quote unquote work, right? You can't like it. When you claim a PS Plus game, it's marked as purchase, and you can't you can't buy it outright anymore. And then so it's going to be tied to your account that you have the Plus version, you know?
Yeah.
So you're fucking people who have the disc if you get this.
It's like
What?
it's like they're doing everything in their power to kind of make the DLC fail.
Yeah,
it does.
It does feel that way because it's just like I mean, none of it makes sense. Like the whole PS Plus thing. Like I've said, it does for the reasons I said, right? I think limiting Yuffie to the PS5 version is also nonsense because, I mean, no one's buying a PS5 for Yuffie. Let's just make that completely clear, right?
No.
Fucking no one is buying a PlayStation 5 for Yuffie, right?
Well,
and so you're arbitrarily limiting the amount of people who can even purchase this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why
So my weird thing is because you series go lol Square and all this, right? But like the exclusivity windows and PS Plus games are things that Sony does, right? Like they're the one that pushes for this stuff that Square doesn't decide, right? Like they just give them a bag of money and say, well, I guess we'll take the bag of money, right? Like it feels very confused. Like it feels like they really want FF to feel like it's part of PlayStation, right?
Yep.
The FF16 is that same way too. But like
it was Square's decision to make Yuffie PS5 only.
Well,
sure.
I think Will is onto something that there was probably a large sum of money involved in that Sony was like, hey, we want to incentivize PS5, right? Make this exclusive because Square is just leaving money on the table, right? This is not even like screwing over. It's just literally it's Square leaving money on the table, right?
Yes, absolutely, and it reeks of the kind of stuff that PlayStation likes to do with their exclusive deals, right?
Yeah,
like it does, Square does stupid things, i.e., like
we'll get to it.
Games.
I have a lot to say about Square Enix's stupidity.
But this seems like a Sony thing. Sony does this kind of shit with their exclusive stuff, like whether it's like the DLC stuff that's like exclusive for like different games, like Call of Duty or whatever. It just seems like stuff that they like to throw money at. So yeah, I definitely think it was their decision.
Yeah. But without, I guess, any more larger thoughts on that before we move on to the stuff we can complain about Square?
So are we still?
Oh yeah, I'm excited for Yuffie. The playable characters are very different in Remake, right?
Yeah.
She'll be cool.
I think like the most interesting part of FF7's gameplay is the individual party members because they all play so differently, right?
Yeah.
So adding a new character to that mix is just very cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Sonon is kind of a new character too, I guess.
Yeah.
No one cares about Sonon.
What do you mean?
Intergrade though. Before we move on to the mobile game,
okay.
Intergrade. They have shown some stuff here that I am dreading.
What could it possibly be?
They're clearly integrating parts of the grander FF7 compilation, right?
You knew it was going to happen.
I didn't know it was going to happen this fast. First of all, there was plausible deniability up until this point, and now
how do you have? Wait, hold up. After you saw the ending, how do you have any plausible deniability?
Because, like, in the interview still, they were like, but we're still going to recreate Junon or whatever the fuck. I don't think they actually call that Junon, but they're like, we're still going to follow the story beats of FF7, right? And so I was like, okay, maybe the ending was just this wacko thing, and then we're just going to kind of, like, it's just going to be, like, in the background.
And then we're going to pull ourselves from the ledge, because that's what's here in Square Enix.
Square Enix loves nothing more.
Yeah. No, oh my god! Like this game is just gonna have so much bullshit, right? This whole remake project is just gonna be filled with bullshit that no one likes, no one cares about. It's dumb and frustrating.
All the AMVs disagree. People love it.
I'm going I'm going to buy the fucking Final Fantasy, that fucking mobile game for the Final Fantasy 7. And I'm going to regret
Ever Crisis?
Ever Crisis.
I'm going to regret it. And
so let's say what that is.
Let's talk. What is Ever Crisis?
Ever Crisis is a chapter-structured single-player game covering the totality of the FF7 timeline, including the original game and the compilation titles. The stuff they show is just from basically the bombing run, and the final shot is Zack on the train, right? That, I mean, like, visually, it looks nice.
Stunning. I think it looks stunning visually.
I think it looks very good.
Yeah.
And I wish it was announced for Switch.
Oh man,
I imagine it will come to Switch.
I'm hoping there's like kind of precedent for this, right? FF15 Pocket Edition is a very similar product, though much worse, much uglier. That game is so slow. But this game, visually it looks like it's a chibi art style, but it looks so clean.
And in the battles, it does the thing that FF7 does, right? Which is the chibi, and then in the battle they look fully realized. And then it has these character portraits that are just so gorgeous, right? When they're talking,
reminiscent of the original art style as well, which is
this is like a proper remake of FF7. I'm glad that they're doing something new, though I'm not happy with the bullshit. But like I'm happy that the remake is something, right?
Yeah.
But this is kind of like, man, this is like a really faithful recreation of F7. Plus, this gives me a cool way to experience like shit like adventure that I don't care about. But hey, it's playable.
I'm very curious about that. How they make these things that were previously non-playable be things you walk around in. You know?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But I mean, also, sorry, go
on. Crisis Core is something to be excited about. I mean, it's a pretty good game.
Crisis Core is a good game. And so, like, you know, seeing that recreated in, like, the FF... Like, this will be cool. Like, I think this will be a cool product. I do have my gripes... Before talking about, like, what this means for grander FF7, I have some gripes with the game itself, though. It's like this monkey's paw wish, right? For Final Fantasy VII Remake. Because, A, it's mobile. And, like, I know mobile games are, like... Mobile games...
You can play this on your iPad and be fine, but...
Right?
Yeah.
But, like... you know, I don't want to play on. I don't want to play on touchscreen, right?
Yeah.
And it being chapter based is like I'm concerned on how much they condense things. I guess to fit into like a chapter structure. You know. And I'm not too keen on like one chapter a month. I mind you, I could just wait till the full thing is out.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it, I think.
But like, it's just like there's just these niggling things that's just like, man, you see a product that could have been something special. Right?
Yes.
And instead it just ends up being like, okay, I mean, this is cool, but like,
that was my exact thoughts. Like, looking at this trailer, I was like, this seems like a very, very good accompaniment, like accomplice to FF7 Remake. This seems like a really, really good idea. And then they had that fucking last screenshot with like all the other games and say chapter release and all that thing, and just immediately all those ideas just kind of like washed away. It's like
I don't know about that. I don't know if they wash away. Like
it's like this looks like this is going to be this has the potential to be a mess. It's a good idea that looks like it could be a mess.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it was already a mess. Like this whole timeline was already
FF7 has been our mess for the better part of it.
It's been a mess for a long time. And,
adding on to that, there's FF7, The First Soldier. Where are we dropping? It's a battle royale in Midgar.
Sure. I don't even like sure, you know. Just like
that's just a funny sentence.
This doesn't offend me. Hell, if it was on Switch, I'd probably play it. To be honest with you,
is it? I never saw the trailer with the sound on because I was like I was at work. But is this supposed to be like the Shinra and Wutai War or some shit?
It's just the founding of Soldier, like 30 years ago, I think, before the start of FF7.
Oh my god.
So
Final Fantasy VII, man.
We're filling in the timelines.
I think the only reason it
how
fills
much
me
milk
with
does
dread,
this cow have left?
Yeah, that's my issue. Is like it's just like to me, like all this shit, all of it, doing the weird remaster, like doing 2 mobile games, like it tells me that like we're not going to be off of the FF7 train for the next decade.
I mean, quite literally, they wanted the 2007 2017 to be the decade of Final Fantasy VII, right?
Turns out it's actually going to be the 2020s.
Final Fantasy VII is its own franchise. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Like, Final Fantasy is a franchise. Final Fantasy VII, the fucking game, is its own franchise in itself, which is fucking
Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
They love doing this, and it's just annoying. Like, I love FF7, I do, but I am getting sick of it. You know, like, I don't want to just milk FF7 till
I feel like it's pretty easy to
35.
ignore.
Huh?
I feel like it's relatively easy to ignore.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, anything I can ignore, I guess, but it's like
the Battle Royale game's not, like you said, it's not taking anything, right? Like...
Yeah, but but it's also a slippery slope. You're gonna say, "Oh, that's ridiculous," but like there is precedent. Like FF15, to get the full story of FF15, you needed to watch a movie. You needed to play like 2 or 3 mobile games. You know, like you needed to play the demos had their own stories, right? And like to get the full picture of it, you have to like. There was an anime, you know, like
yeah. This is a thing that they very clearly like, right? They love this idea of a cross-media franchise.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to make the comparison to fucking Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, the genuine fear of, like, in order to be able to fully enjoy Final Fantasy Remake Part 2, you have to have every single experience just like you did with fucking Kingdom Hearts.
I think it's just the expansion.
But at least Kingdom Hearts...
I had every experience in Kingdom Hearts, and I didn't enjoy it.
but also, I would argue Final Fantasy is worse about this than Kingdom Hearts, because at least Kingdom Hearts has the decency to have those compilations.
Okay,
right?
sure, but
and they were all games. They were all video games, right? Like core experience. I'm sure. You could say Birthplace. I mean, you could say like Recoded and shit. Like
Unchained, the fucking thing.
The mobile game was key.
It was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
No, but see, you're saying this stuff. I get it, but like right now, it's just this and the expansion. Like, so the expansion's the most offensive part of that.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Like, of the 3 things we saw today, actually, the expansion is the most offensive part. Right.
Yeah.
But again, slippery slope.
Sure.
Is it though?
Yeah. I mean, we'll have years to figure it out. Sorry, was that?
Is the expansion the worst?
I mean, in terms of if you want to get the whole story,
in, like business practices. Yeah.
No, I mean, but like
and the pursuit of do I have to do all these side things to know what happens in part 2? That's the thing you need to play.
I mean,
yeah. But what I think it's funny though, because arguably their biggest success, because Final Fantasy has tried this before, right? Like Il said, right? 13 was going to be a whole thing, right? 15 was going to be a whole thing. I feel like what's the name? The MMO Ivalice, right? Is that the name of the world, Mina?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the most successful they've been, which is just like they're just in the same world, like
Eorzea,
and that's it.
14.
And like that's
Eorzea is the 14.
Yeah, I thought he was about 14. He said the MMO, right?
11
and 12 and like other ones, yeah. But like, yeah, so I don't know. This is something that they clearly want to do forever, and they're gonna try because they put a lot of money in this. Sorry, was that?
Now I have to look up if 11's Ivalice.
Yeah, because Ivalice,
I think Ivalice is
that's
only
a 12 thing,
12 and
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Story.
All right, then my bad.
But
wires crossed.
Regardless, though, it's just they've tried this a lot, and it's annoyed me every time, and I think, and this is gonna annoy me too. Sure, the way it is. The life of a Final Fantasy fan, you know.
You know who is annoyed also? The 5 people playing Anthem left. Sorry to those Anthem. So Anthem Next was going to be the 2.0. It was reported a couple times. Clearly was a thing that was planned. They announced it. Announced this week. Just on their blog. Hey, we had a conversation. Had a meeting. It's not going anywhere, so we're just gonna cancel it. With this, we've got some other information about EA is seemingly doing a lot of culling right now. EA Motive had been working on a game for the last 4 years, didn't have much to show, so that all got shelved. And we learned some details about Dragon Age, which is that originally it was going to be a games as a service online game. But after the success of Jedi Fallen Order, EA went to BioWare and said, no, you should make this a single-player game instead.
Thank God. Thank you, Star Wars. Fucking thank you.
I want to talk about the Dragon Age thing, but before that, I want to talk about the less interesting thing, I guess. About Anthem. Did anyone expect, like, the second they announced Mass Effect and Dragon Age before that, did you expect Anthem to even try anything after that? Like, clearly they don't have the staff for 3 major projects, right?
Yeah. I honestly forgot that they were trying to revive the Anthem. I thought it was dead already.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't pay any mind. It was already fucking in the past. It was my brain.
It was apparently just a small team that had been working on this to sort of proof of concept it.
And this week they met with EA to decide if they were going to staff up for it. But it's like, you're working on 2 big games. Like Anthem was just never. And the other weird thing about rebooting Anthem, like the only time we've really seen this to this scale is Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Right. But the difference between Final Fantasy XIV is Final Fantasy is a brand that you have passionate fans.
Yeah.
Right. Anthem does not have that.
Yeah. And a really long tail too, right? Like MMOs are designed to last a decade. Like Anthem, even if it got back, it would get like a couple of years. Like it's crazy.
There was no fervor for it, right? Like this is not what people were asking for, and so it's weird to me that it was even gonna happen, right? Yeah. But it makes sense that it's canned.
So Dragon Age, though. So I want to clear something up, right? Because I saw people say lol EA before this, right? But Trier and other people that have reported on this have actually said before that when it comes to games as a service type stuff, actually it's BioWare just really thought that they could pull it off. That they were really into the idea. Which I think it's very funny that like EA went to BioWare to say make a single player story based game, because you would think it's very much the inverse, right?
Yeah.
But I mean,
but EA is the good guys in this story.
Rare chance. Take it while you can, EA.
Yeah, I heard another report. I don't know if you were about to talk about that or not, but
sure. How about
that? Like EA was like kind of stepping back in a way and like letting all their like teams and different developer studios like kind of have the reins in a way.
Like do what they want, like pursue projects that they want to pursue.
Yeah.
Because apparently is interesting. Like it's like the Microsoft model almost right now, right? Like Microsoft has all these studios and they kind of just give them free reign, and I guess EA is doing the same now.
Yeah. I do think it's of note. Like, it wasn't like EA would say make an online game, right? But apparently the thing they kept pushing for was, where's your FIFA Ultimate Team, right? Because FIFA Ultimate Team makes them hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And so it's like, well, if we're going to do like an Ultimate Team, we have to make it an online game, right? And so it's sort of the implication is sort of what drove so many of these people to try to do this, right? But like we said, Jedi Fallen Order just, I don't know what deal with the devil they made to get that game made in the first place, probably making 5 Titanfall spinoffs, but clearly it worked out, so like that now they're seemingly much more open to just do the single player game, and it'll sell well if people like it, so that's good.
Imagine making single player games.
Dragon Age even going in that direction is just flabbergasted.
Yeah, that's
like that's not what you expect from a BioWare. Like not just a BioWare game, but like an established franchise of theirs.
I mean, Dragon Age hasn't been like a well regarded franchise in a long time.
Sure, yeah, but you still like expect a base level of like you have an idea of what Dragon Age is, right? And games as a service type of game doesn't really fit that mold.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's very interesting to track. I wonder what internally BioWare is, how much they've been rocked by sort of the tides against them over the last generation, right? Because obviously Mass Effect was like, do they even know how to make those old type of games? And then Anthem's like, go back to making those old type of games. And then they're trying again, so we'll see how it goes. Anyways, that's the news for this week. There was a lot. Or a lot to get into with those pieces of news, I guess, more appropriately. But of course, we have even more to get into on the list. Follow along in the paste bin below, as every week we add a game to an ever-growing list of titles. All good and bad, every game, new, old. We're just doing, eventually every game ever will be on this list, officially ranked against the other ones, and it'll be easy peasy to know definitively is X better than Y. Last week, I attacked Saf personally. And added Xenoblade Chronicles 2, got to 34, new high, new personal best. Who's adding this week? Saf. How about
I
it?
wonder if anyone told Saf that he was adding this week.
Yeah. So, we've already talked enough about Final Fantasy VII, but I want to talk more about Final Fantasy VII. Let's talk about Crisis Core.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. All right, so tell me about Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. This is like the origin story of Zack. And basically before the events of Final Fantasy VII, surprise, surprise. And it's an action role-playing game, and it is literally just Zack and Cloud and Sephiroth doing their thing in Soldier. Well, barely.
And Angel and Genesis.
And Angel and Genesis, and maybe a little bit of Sang in there.
All beloved.
Yeah, it's basically just them in like during the Wutai War and just doing their shit, fighting monsters. It was an action RPG. I mentioned this before as well, where it's like more combat oriented, but more action oriented than the general ATB system. It used a slot machine type game mechanic to give you fucking bonuses and boosts in your fucking fights and shit, which is kind of cool because like there was I don't think there were any negatives to it. I don't haven't experienced it, but it was nice wee buff, a nice wee interesting way to play it out, and it was a really really good, surprisingly good origin story, which is unusual for a spin-off for Final Fantasy VII.
I'm not sure I would say the story is surprisingly good. The game is surprisingly good. Like, the gameplay is fun. And, like, it was fun, like, boosting up all my stats and all that shit.
So that's what I meant by origin story. Like, the game itself has overall package.
And the ending is,
So, outside of the ending, I actually think it's a kind of interesting story, though.
Sure.
I think the way they flesh out Zack and like his motives and you know, he's an interesting character, and even like the way they handled Sephiroth, I thought was very interesting. Like, I thought this is the one piece of the FF7 compilation that I'm like, hey, this actually enhanced my enjoyment of this world.
The characters that you know walking in, I think, are all characterized pretty well, right? Like getting to see more of them, right? The other ones are you can more take or leave. But
I mean, one of my main takeaways was just how likable they made Zack. Like, I like Zack a lot more than Cloud, I think.
and it's a thing that's like they know the ending, right? And so like there is a unique tone to that, to this sort of march towards the end, right? And I thought they also did a pretty good job realizing, like, walking around the FF7 world on the PSP, right? Like a pretty visually impressive game for what that platform was, you know?
Good job, Hajime Tabata.
Yeah.
This is his one good game. Fun fact. This is also
gorgeous cutscenes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the cutscenes are so, man, it's crazy. Like, it's almost wasted on the PSP. But very very gorgeous cutscenes. And I think this is my favorite PSP game. You know, like again, I mentioned the story. I think the game is just very fun to play. Right? Mm-hmm. Like it's a fun combat system. It's this is a good game. This is just a good game, and that you don't expect that from a fucking shitty spin-off of.
This was after Dirge of Cerberus, right?
This is after Dirge of Cerberus.
So we were nervous at this point.
Maybe it was before. I don't know. Was it better?
I think it was after. All right. Saf, do you want to rank it or want to talk about it more?
Let's rank it, man. Now less work for me, you know? Less editing work for me.
All right. I've had it.
Where do we want it, Safi?
Where do we want it? I want to put it somewhere in the somewhere in the somewhere in the hundreds, like
hundreds.
It was right after, like basically 1 year after.
Yeah,
1 year after.
Yeah, so we had been hurt at that point.
Somewhere between. Do I want to put it above Octopath Traveler, or do I want to put it somewhere below Octopath?
I would put it above.
we didn't talk about the story, and there's a good reason for that. And
you want to talk about the story?
The added characters are not good.
They're not good.
No, they're not good at all.
Nothing that they've ever
roll my
added.
eyes a whole fucking lot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it also does that thing where, like, whenever you make a prequel story, you take these elements from the original game and you add, like, all this unnecessary importance to them. Like, the Buster Sword has this whole fucking history to it, but it doesn't fucking matter because they're trash sword.
Yeah, like in FF7, and the Buster Sword, sorry, this is a side, but it's so funny because in actual FF7, the Buster Sword is your starter weapon and that's it, right? Like, fucking
it's garbage.
It's just on the cover. That's why it's a big deal.
It's just a cool sword, you know?
Yeah,
and then to give it this reverence and this importance. Like,
it's like in Star Wars. They're like, you want to know the origin of Han Solo's blaster, and you're like, no,
I don't.
No,
I don't actually.
Just a blaster.
You know?
it's just a gun, kind of shit.
I want to put it in the Golden Sun range personally.
Where is Golden Sun?
117.
117.
Two wildly different positions. Okay,
It's not that wild. The hundreds are all kind of meshed together, to be honest.
that's like fucking 15 points of difference.
I think I would put it slightly lower than that. I think I would put it below Firewatch.
Low
Where is
Firewatch.
that? Oh, 119. I mean, I haven't played Firewatch, but that's just 2 spots lower than I was thinking, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, looking at some of the games below Octopath, I'm fine with that. Do I want to put it below Snatcher?
Because you're putting it below, like, I don't think it's like,
No, I wouldn't put Blow Standard.
because a lot of games, they have, like, glaring flaws to it. Like, I see, like, a lot of the games, they do have some specific glaring flaw. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know if I want to... I don't know if
I still think
Little
Crisis
Nightmares
Core...
or Brothers have glaring flaws.
I feel like it's not like a... Like, yeah, I don't know if I would say that this area has... Like, what's the glaring flaw of, like, Golden Sun?
What's the glaring flaw?
What's the glaring flaw of
Kid Icarus,
Bravely
of course.
Default? Or, like,
None. I can't think of a single...
Or...
I can't even think of a tiny flaw in that game.
I know,
So,
right?
you know. So it's in good company.
Inconceivable.
It's in good company, Saf.
I don't know, I just keep, the thing that catches my eye is, like, Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default.
I mean, okay,
Kid Icarus
if I can talk about Octopath Traveler for a
like,
second, and why I believe it should be firmly above this game, okay?
Uh-huh.
Octopath Traveler, yes, it has its glaring flaws, but I think that the sum of its part, I think it is greater than the sum of its parts, right? I think that, like, I think Octopath Traveler, like, throughout the, like, we have almost only said negative things about Octopath Traveler the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I say the battle system is very good every time we talk about it.
The aesthetic is great, the music is great, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you know, no, the story didn't go anywhere, right? And yes, it gets a little long in the tooth, right? But I still, it's just like such a, I think it's just a really, really well-made JRPG, right? Like, and I, you know, it's still a great game, despite the story just being nothing, right? So.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
I
I'd put
suppose-
it below The Missing, personally, I guess.
You know what, you're right. Let's put it below The Missing.
I would put it above the Missing.
I would put it above, but I don't feel strongly, so. Okay,
Here we
I'm
are.
below The Missing.
I didn't know there was a second part to that sentence or not.
No. Below The Missing, unless, like, Saf and Will suddenly disagree, but...
No. Oh, man, that's very funny. What a debate.
Okay. Well,
Alright, at 121, we have Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7. Surrounding it at 119, there's Firewatch. 120, The Missing, JJ Macfield and the Island of Memories. 121, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7. 122, Snatcher. 123, Night in the Woods.
I'm not gonna lie, Saf, I was gonna add that game next. That was the next game that I was gonna add.
I
Well,
honestly
Crisis Core?
did not know that you guys had played this game.
No.
I only thought me and Ills played that game, and maybe Will. And when you Mina mentioned that you played it, I was like, "Oh wow, this is a new game choice." If I'm next, I don't even know if I'm next, but if I'm next, I'm gonna fucking pick this game.
Well, there it is. There you were next. There it is. That is the podcast for this week. Plugs, final phrases. Somebody, please.
Brandon, you're
No.
gonna plug.
You know that I'm gonna plug. And I didn't play Final Fantasy, so I had nothing to say,
Yeah.
But yeah, if you enjoyed the Jump Up Supercast, make sure you check us out on your favorite podcast listening service of your choice, including SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Our new episodes go up every single Monday, as well as our other show, the Jump Up Supercast Game Club, where those episodes go up every other Thursday. And on the Game Club, we play a different game every 2 weeks, and then we come together and talk about it, kind of like a book club. And the upcoming episode should be out this week, is about Barkley Shut Up and Jam Guided. And that game was chosen for us to play by one of our Patreon members. And we do have a Patreon where if you want to support the podcast, you can do that, where for as low as $1 a month, you get a chance to choose one of our Game Club games every round. And you can join our Discord server and talk to us about games there as well. If you want to follow, like, share, feel free to do that. And let us know what your thoughts are on the Pokemon Showcase. What you think about Final Fantasy VII being its own media franchise in itself. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, you can, to stay up to date on everything Jump Up Supercast related, including when episodes go live, and even when we go live on Twitch, because we have a Twitch at twitch.tv/JumpUpSupercast. If you want to follow us there, you can come hang out and watch us play video games. I recently started doing the golf club again, so I started playing Golf Story there. I'm sure I'm going to continue playing that game, and we'll do multiplayer games as well. Mina is playing through Demon Souls right now, and I'm playing through Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So there's a lot going on our Twitch. Come hang out, come chat, watch us play video games, and hang out with us. It's a fun time. And thank you guys for listening to the podcast. We appreciate every single one of you guys. You the real MVP, except for the people who complain about Pokemon all day on the internet. Which I guess was maybe us on this episode, but I think we had... yeah, we suck too. So whoever was taking us out for the final praise, I don't even remember who.
We didn't say, but I...
well, Mina, I know it's you. I know deep down in your heart.
No. Junichi Masuda, I'm sorry for my words and actions.